Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gossip About Prejudice, where we are coming off a week of Drake suing Kendrick Lamar for calling him a certified lover boy. That was a fantastic episode, but we are back on track for our normal content. We've got another typical skullduggerous war story featuring misconduct across the legal industry and telling you how to be a little bit better of a lawyer in the process. Lindsey, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm really excited to tell this story. You're going to love it.
Well, the last misconduct story we did was a Ponzi scheme, real estate / lawyer Ponzi scheme who was taken down by a receptionist in like the Toronto's Teachers Union Association.
All she had to do was say, nope, not one of our lawyers. And boom, it was all over. This one is very different.
Okay.
This involves a lot of money, but no Ponzi schemes.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
Are you ready to just jump right into it?
I'm very much ready to jump into it. I did want to say in the news, we did not cover it last week. The CEO of United Healthcare was killed outside of a downtown Manhattan hotel. He was there for an investor conference.
Wow.
And the gunman is still on the loose.
Wow.
Yeah. That was on this morning of December 4th, right as we were recording.
Wow. Once that's figured out what the heck's going on, I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that too, especially since NYPD thinks it was a hit.
That's
crucial. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, let us know if you guys want to hear more about that.
Yeah, premiums too damn high, but not that high.
Yeah.
Genuine condolences to his family.
Yes.
But I just wanted to give that a quick shout out that times are a-changing, and we wanted to, that was all over the news last week, so we wanted to put something in today. But other than that quick snippet, I don't have too much to talk about.
All right, well, let's get the heck into it then, huh?
Back to fraud.
A little bit of fraud.
A little bit of fraud?
Mostly theft.
Mostly theft.
Only a little bit of fraud.
You gotta love it. You love to see it, honestly.
Once upon a time, there was an attorney named John Milton Merritt. Folks, this is an entirely true story, to the best of my knowledge.
The story is real, the names are fake.
No, in fact, this is a real name.
Oh, this is a real name.
Because there were news articles about this guy.
Oh,
yes.
Fuck yes.
Normally, if it's just like a bar discipline story that I've pulled out, I'll change those names because those people, like, they're not in the public eye. But this guy, there's articles about him. So
hell yeah.
We can talk about this because you guys would find it anyways.
Gossip About Prejudice is the podcast famous for spreading misinformation. I recant. Thank you, Lindsey.
All right. John Milton Merritt.
Okay.
He was from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
All right.
When this story broke in 2012, he was 74 years old and had only very recently stopped practicing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, fun fact, just because I found this interesting, John Milton Merritt was 15 years old when color television became a thing.
Nice.
Isn't that wild?
God, these guys out here robbing us from the Eisenhower administration.
Seriously. So, over the course of his career, Merritt built up a name for himself as a skilled lawyer who really cared for his clients.
Okay.
He worked in product liability and personal injury. So when a company did something and accidentally hurt a person, he was the one suing the company. So he gained that reputation for being a really caring guy. But towards the end of his career, he ran into some serious money problems.
Oh, nice.
And he found the perfect victims for this.
Was his money problems? Was that his problem was that he did not have enough money?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. It. Yeah. His problem wasn't that he had too much money. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No.
It never is.
Never a problem.
Never a problem.
So, in 2002, Merritt took on representation of 4 young girls whose parents had died in a car accident. You already know where this is going.
You lost me at 4 young girls. That's not...
Orphan girls.
Oh, okay.
He took on representation of 4 orphan girls. He sued Bridgestone Tires and Ford. Couple of years, both of those cases settled. Spring 2005, he sets up accounts for the girls for the settlement from the suits. Each of the 4 accounts contained anywhere between $65,000 and $75,000.
So was he appointed? Like, I presume this was an IOLTA, like a trust of some kind. Or was it just an account?
These were accounts for the girls. I'm not sure of the specifics. The court documents don't specify what kind of accounts. But I'm pretty confident that they're in the girls' names, not his.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because this might be an IOLTA account, which is an account used by attorneys to manage other people's funds. But it is not... The account itself is not in the name of the clients. It's just managed on their behalf. But it could also be what you're describing, which is to say other accounts that the attorney is given power of attorney to manage on their behalf. That might also, because they're minors, that might also require court authority, some sort of appointment. Which state was this in? Is this here in Washington?
This was in Oklahoma.
Oh, I got no information.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So accounts that he had access to.
Yes, he had access to them, and they were not in his name.
Okay.
So he wasn't just going to let all that money just sit there. So
it was getting lonely.
Yeah, exactly. He needed to keep it company.
We've just got to start robbing these orphans.
Dude, that's exactly what he did.
Nice.
So this motherfucker.
I can't. Why do we work in this profession? I can't.
To make it better. To get rid of jerks like John Milton Merritt. This is a complex story though, man.
Okay.
So he wasn't just going to let that money sit there. All October 2005, he fabricated a court order which quote unquote, informed the court to pay him $88,000 in attorney's fees.
Just every year or every month? Or?
Just a one time from the girls' accounts.
All right. So far, so bad.
Okay. This payment came from two of those girls' accounts. He also even forged the judge's signature on this one.
Dude,
risky move.
Don't do that.
He deposited that money into the firm's main operating account, not the IELTA.
Okay.
That money took care of him for a couple of years.
How large was his firm?
Ooh.
Do we not have information on that?
That's a great question. We don't have information about that.
My guess is that this is a smaller firm of some kind.
It might even be solo practice.
This has solo practice energy.
It has solo practice energy.
Because if I were a bookkeeper at a firm of like 10 people and all of a sudden we got $88,000 in fees we didn't necessarily owe based on an order that was never issued, I might ask some questions about that. But this feels like definitely a smaller operation.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was solo practice now that we talk about it a little bit. A couple of years pass. John Milton Merritt is down bad in the monies again.
It's robbing from orphans. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, you try it once and it's so easy. He did it again. He filed another false court order to take money from these orphans. This time, $131,000.
What? But okay, hold on. Quick clarifying question. There was like 70 to 80,000 in each of these accounts, and there are 3 accounts.
Yep.
Where's all this money coming from? Because he already took 88, and that's like most of one account, right?
That's all of one and a little bit of another.
So these 2 basically wiped out the rest of the money.
Pretty much, dude. We'll get to that again at the end of this little section here. I'll let you know something about that. But this one was $131,000, forged the judge's signature, all that good stuff. The bank gave him a cashier's check. However, he didn't take this to his regular bank firm operating account. He opened a new firm account in an entirely separate institution.
Nice.
Deposited there, and then over the course of the next month, he slowly transferred those funds back into his main operating account.
His own account. Okay.
Money laundering.
So at this point he knew. Oh, and that also answers the question with the financial. So this was a trust. So, or of some sort of external financial instrument, because he would not need court orders to disperse funds. If it was in his IELTA, he could just take that. Now, he still has a fiduciary duty to manage client funds in his IELTA. That does not change the legality of what's going on here. But he wouldn't need to add the extra layer of fraud. So he might be taking this to a trustee or a financial institution that's been appointed as the trustee. And then that's why he gets the fees.
I believe it's the financial institution.
It's probably
I think he can just go right to the bank and show them the court order, quote unquote, court order.
Alleged court order.
Yes.
Okay, that clarifies why he's jumping through so many hoops for this fraud. Because if it was just in his account, admittedly that would also be unusual to keep your client settlement funds for minors in your own IELTA for long term. So okay, that clarifies things. All right.
So we're understanding. 6 months later,
nice.
December 2007, he filed a third false court order, this time another $80,000.
Wait, but we're definitely out of money by now, right?
Pretty much. So he again opened a new firm account for this money, but this time at the same institution as his original firm account, and then slowly transferred that money between the 2 accounts for all the laundering. And at this point, 2 of the accounts were full on empty. And we know that the other 2 were getting pretty close.
Where were the orphans?
So a couple of years later, after that final transfer, their grandma reached out because their parents were dead.
Grandma was, okay, go grandma. Yeah.
Go grandma. She was reaching out asking about the balances. He just fucking lied. He just made some shit up.
Nice, dude.
And in the end, he stole around $300,000 from those 4 girls. Isn't that crazy?
Those are the richest orphans I've ever heard of.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. He said the same thing, and he said, not if I have anything to say.
These girls don't need this money. I mean, they can't even spend it because they're minors, right? But, my dude, it gets worse.
Okay.
That family was not the only victim.
Oh.
In 2007, Merritt took on representation of a mother and her young son, another car accident case, filed another lawsuit, Ford settled, large sum of money came their way. He deposited into I don't know if he did it or the court did it. The money was deposited into an account for the son. And so the son's account statements were being mailed to the mother. The first thing that Merritt did was he called that institution and changed them so that the account statements would then be mailed to his P.O. box instead of the mother.
Okay, to keep the mom from finding out.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And then he filed a fourth false court order. However, this time it was a federal judge, not a state judge. So I think that escalates.
Dude, I think the feds are going to drop a building on this guy.
Yeah. They won't even need to.
They don't. What did he already? Did he fly right into a what? A building? What the fuck do you mean? You don't need to already drop.
The building fell on it by its own. No. No buildings involved. But disaster. So Merritt filed that fourth false court order. Federal judge this time. He stole around $130,000 from this one boy's account, which was almost all of the account balance.
I like how he leaves him with crumbs.
Yes.
You gotta leave him wanting more.
Can't just take it all.
Yeah, you can't just take it all. You
gotta leave him like $20. He's gotta get gas.
Well, I mean, that's what's so interesting about this is that he's spreading out the deposits to make them easier harder to co-locate.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not like money laundering per se, but it's obfuscation that really reveals this type of intent that I don't like.
With this 130, I think this is how it went. I think that the court order, the false court order, directed the money to go into the firm's IOLTA, but he cashed it into the firm's main account. And then he called the bank, who transferred the money back into the IOLTA. Then he sent half of the money back to the main account and the other half in two chunks, one to a second firm account and the other chunk to Medicaid.
Medicaid?
Medicaid.
The federal government was in on this?
Yes, I guess.
Oh my God.
So that's what it took me a while to figure out exactly that procession of events. So he's really messing with the money here. I think it's all for obfuscation, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I should say I'm guessing he's not actually filing these court orders. I'm guessing he's just giving them to the bank.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, they use the language of file because I think that's what, news reports don't know better.
But I think you're right there.
Yeah, he's just giving them to the bank. It's just a piece of paper that he scribbled on. Because if these were to ever actually make it into the court record, the clerk would catch that very quickly.
Yeah.
And then they would drop a building on him. even if he was already squished, they would add an extra building on top.
All the buildings.
Yeah, but continue.
So this one, the mother discovered what was going on. Thank goodness.
What was online banking invented? Is that how she found out?
I think maybe she got notified that the address was changed or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So she was really suspicious. She came to him to tell him, what the hell are you doing, man? Okay. He confessed to her what he had done, begged for her silence, and he gave her back $200,000.
That's his weakness.
Yes.
Children with parents.
Yeah, the parents. That's where the problem comes in. Parents and grandmas.
That's why he picked on orphans. He can't. If mom even talks to one thing, he gives up the whole goose.
So of that, he $50,000 in checks right to her, and then $150,000 back into her son's account. He told the mother that he had taken that money to pay bills.
Oh, so he's just a bad businessman.
Yes.
He's just a shit businessman.
I told you, he's down bad in the monies.
God damn.
He owes money to Medicaid.
No.
Yeah, right?
Oh, but it's not even good. There's not even yachts.
That's true. There's no art.
He's just, where was his firm located?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah. Living it up in Tulsa.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Poor Merritt.
God, it's just not even good. Like every time I see this shit and the stuff, I'm not gonna defraud people for millions of dollars. But if I were to, even once, I'd be in Dubai.
Right? Immediately.
At least that way, when I went to jail for 25 years for embezzlement and wire fraud, I'd be like, man, I had a good run. Like I had 5 years of run. I took all the orphans' money.
Yep.
I was out in an indoor ski park in the desert in gold-plated skis, and then I was carted off by men in blue windbreakers, you know, and then
and that was it.
Yeah, and that's the windbreaker to jail pipipeline.
Yeah, and from there, you're allowed to give up.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like,
you were in Dubai.
Yeah. I was in Dubai, and I was like, you got me. Honestly, you got me good.
Sorry.
It was a good run. Yeah, I'm just a little guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy. But at Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's just not even.
And he stayed there, too.
And he stayed there.
He stayed there. He didn't run.
No, this is.
But things did start to unravel.
Okay.
Pretty shortly after this.
Yep.
A few days later, after the mom came, bank officials came sniffing around.
Uh-oh.
Because they were like, something's up. When they asked Merritt about all these changes to that son's account, again, he just gave him bullshit, saying that
he just lied.
Yeah, the mother changed the address and the removal of funds was totally legitimate. Of course. Look at this court order, guys.
The mom went in on it with him?
Yes. She supposedly. There were never there's no documented report of her coming to the court and saying what was going on. But man, she got $70,000 out of the deal. So I'm not sure I would have either.
Was it extra dollars?
He stole 130 and gave back 200,000.
Honestly,
good deal. Yeah, probably would have stayed quiet.
Yeah, honestly, not endorsing deceiving authorities, but like
not endorsing it.
Is she a single mom or is she?
I believe so.
Just a single mother.
Yup.
9-year-old kid who got pancaked by a car accident.
Yup.
I can't blame her. Like, can't really blame her. I don't think it's right, but I can't say I'm mad either.
Fully agreed.
Yeah.
But bank officials came around anyways.
The bank is less compassionate.
Yeah. So he gave them all bullshit. That all went down April of 2011. We know that he must have come under investigation pretty shortly after that. It was in April 2012 when he was finally charged. The charges John Milton Merritt received were 4 counts of bank fraud, 1 count of forging a judicial signature, and 7 counts of unlawful monetary transactions, aka money laundering.
Only 1 count. So what, did he have a stamp?
I'm wondering if it was because the first 3, that was a district judge, whereas the last one was a federal judge.
They brought federal charges?
Yeah, something like that. I don't fully understand that difference there, but only 1 count of judge.
Where were the criminal charges filed?
Ooh.
I'm guessing federal.
Yes.
The feds tend to take over financial investigations a lot because they deal with interstate commerce.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's federal, and I'm guessing the information we have 1 count of judicial forgery because he only, like you said, he only forged a federal judge's signature once, and I'm guessing there's probably filings out there for the state crimes that he committed.
Probably. However,
did he die?
There's 1 more.
Okay.
There's 3 more.
Almost.
There's 3 more.
No. Okay. What are we doing?
Isn't this crazy?
What is he, like 80 by now? It's been a couple years, right?
It was in 2012. He was 74. So he's 74 when this investigation.
He was 74
going down.
when the investigation.
Yes.
All right.
So there's 3 more crimes.
Yeah.
Back in 2007. There was a business called Advocate Capital. They specialized in loans for lawyers to pay costs while waiting for, court settlements, proceeds, things like that. So our man Merritt forged some documents, somehow convinced these folks to give him a credit line of $1.75 million.
What?
So much money.
How?
Fake documents.
Oh, he just.
Yep.
That's the secret.
The kicker.
That's the secret.
And he did this a second time.
No, I've just got to start lying. I just can't be honest. These guys just prove to me that like the sky's the limit.
But they never get away with it though. So only lie if you don't want to get away with it.
We only profile the guys that get caught.
That's a good point.
We don't know about the guys that don't get caught.
That's a good point.
And these guys always get away with it and then get taken down for some unrelated thing years later.
That's true. That's true. The charges for these secondary, they're still, these secondary charges were brought 3 months after he was arrested for those first stealing from the orphans and whatnot.
Okay.
So $1.75 million from the loan institution. And then also his main bank, that was risky, going to his main operating bank. He again provided them with false documents, got a credit line of $800,000.
What?
But But wait, there's one more.
What? How?
In one particular case, Merritt was working with another lawyer.
Okay.
We don't know anything about this lawyer. We don't know about the case, but we assume that they were working together to settle this case. They settlement checks totaled $500,000.
Okay.
Merritt forged the other attorney's signature and took all the money for himself.
And he fucks over co-counsel.
Yep.
That's tough.
That's really rough.
And so, how long did he think that was going to last?
I don't know, man. I think he had to know that he was getting close. If the feds weren't on his tail by that point, they would have been.
The feds had to have been in his walls.
Yeah.
They were in his bathroom every single morning.
Phone.
Yeah, they were wiretapped. They wiretapped every single wire in his office, every email, phone call, text message. But I don't know, if I were co-counsel and suddenly like $250,000 my share or whatever it was of the proceeds went missing, I make it pretty cranky about that pretty quickly.
I think only a couple of days before you go. Rah!
What's crazy is that like with that shit, you've got like a 2-day head start.
Yeah, right? And that's not nearly enough to get away with it.
We'll get to the Caymans. Like the fact that he just sat in Tucson, or just not in Tucson, Arizona. Tulsa, Arizona. Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma. What can I say? Like,
seriously,
you come for you show up in Oklahoma and get thoroughly whelmed.
Yes,
there's nothing going on.
Also by your lawyer,
right? Yeah, they crush orphans and then also rob them and then also defraud financial institutions.
We love all of our listeners from Oklahoma. Thank you, God. If you exist.
Oklahoma, personal enemy of the Gossip Without Prejudice podcast.
Please don't sue the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah, the state of Oklahoma can at me on Twitter.
Are you ready to hear the conclusion of our story?
Yeah, what the hell happened to this guy?
John Milton Merritt, 2011, investigation started. He officially resigned.
In lieu of
disbarment or anything
Well, he had
else.
already mostly suspended his practice, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So he was basically just picking up people solely to defraud them. He was not a serious businessman by the time.
Because he was 74.
And this is such a common... I talked about this, I think, back in episode 2, I think, or like earlier, in that you see the really young guys who don't know better get pulled before a bar justice, and then you get the really old guys who realize how broken the system is, and they push the boundaries too much.
And they think they can get away with it.
And in my opinion, many do. My comment about these just being the guys that get caught, that's very real.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this shit just happens and never rises to the level where we can profile it, which is why we rely on you, dear viewer.
Yes.
Please send us your crazy stories. We would love to anonymize and then share it with our audience so people can know about the experiences across the legal industry. Hopefully you've not robbed any orphans. If you have, don't involve us. We do not need the FBI back here again.
Only tell us the story after you've been convicted, please and thank you.
Yes. Yep. If it's on the public record, please tell us. We would love to. We'd love to interview you. Actually,
yes,
yeah. Bring in the orphan as well. Bring your orphan that you robbed with you.
So that you can apologize to them on air. We can capture it. Let's call it a YouTuber apology.
We could do a fun like hot ones sort of thing where it's like we bring in the person that defrauded the client and then we bring in the client and then we feed them hot wings and we let them fight on air. Actually, that sounds kind of sick. That would be really good actually. Oh my God.
Shout out to the YouTube channel Super Mega, who one time entirely created their own Hot Ones episode. One of the dudes dressed up as the host and he had the bald cap and everything.
The bald cap and everything.
Terrible.
It's
a great video.
We
should do that.
We should actually brainstorm on something like that.
Let us know what else you'd like to see from Gossip Without Prejudice.
New Year's episode where we eat Carolina Reaper peppers and then talk about civil procedure.
Oh my goodness. Bang my head against this wall.
That would be sick.
We got to get back to our story.
Yeah. Get back to the story.
Okay. John Milton Merritt. 2011 investigation started. In July 2012, he pled guilty to stealing from orphans. And then finally, in January 2013, he pled guilty to the additional fraud charges.
Nice.
So he admits he did all of it.
Okay.
His sentencing was scheduled for May 2013. However, mid-70s, Merritt was not in good health.
Okay.
He had been diabetic for many years, and now he was having heart trouble too. Because of this, his trial was put off 5 separate times. And then finally, on September 16th, 2014, at the age of 76, John Milton Merritt passed away before the courts could officially determine his guilt. So, in the end, he stole over $3 million and faced 0 real-world consequences.
Except for the mortal peril of death.
That would have happened anyways.
Yeah, that would have happened anyways. Yeah, that was kind of tough.
He might have been a little extra stressed from all the criminal charges, but he was close anyways, and he knew it, too.
That actually happened to Elizabeth Holmes, too. Her federal criminal trial, I believe it was federal charges. I'd have to double check. But her trial was continued several times because she was pregnant.
Wow. That's got to be rough.
Oh, well, I mean...
I've probably seen plenty of pregnant people in court before.
That's exactly what happened.
There's a whole range, right? There can be easy pregnancies and extremely difficult ones.
Well, I mean, there's speculation that it was used as a delay tactic.
Very possible.
And to gain sympathy with the jury. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true, but...
No way to really say.
But everybody, even in her insolvency, Elizabeth Holmes still has more resources than any of the common defendants in federal or state courts. Mm-hmm. So, but those continuances do not surprise me because you have to be fit to actually appear.
Yeah, he was probably in pretty rough condition. So the Oklahoman has a great interview with the case's special prosecutor. Oh. That man's name was Charles McLaughlin. I struggle with that name.
Shout out to the what was the...
Charles.
No, the publication. Shout out to the Oklahoman. Yeah.
He shared that investigators searched and searched, but there was simply no money to give back to Merritt's victims. So there was no restitution paid. There was just no money. It was all gone. It
was all spent.
So the victims, they did have the chance to apply for assistance from the state bar, but we don't have any data on whether or not they did that.
Victims' compensation funds are generally wholly inadequate.
I believe it.
The fact that they exist are very cool. I'm very supportive of them,
yes.
but they're generally very underfunded.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, they don't, and that's substantially that's what the civil system is supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
The criminal system protects the public. The civil system allegedly protects individuals, right? That's why money is up for grabs in the civil system, and that's why you also see in a lot of state charges, criminal charges, I should say, why you see like fines of like $120, like you killed someone, pay $150 as part of this, decree. It's like money isn't really the focus.
Yeah, I've noticed that. That's a good point.
Yeah, where the charges, the fines are like laughably small, unless it's a punitive fine that's either required by statute or it goes to like an agency or a specific purpose. The statutory required procedural fines are generally tiny.
And there's also sometimes victim restitution, right? But that's usually not very large either.
It's state to state.
I came into one really recently that was Washington, and it was an assault charge, and it was $500 for victim restitution.
Yeah, it's usually pretty small stuff. It usually doesn't cover medical bills. They tend to not be terribly much larger when you lose someone. The remedy is to have the criminal charges move through, and either to file civil suit simultaneously or to file civil suit after the fact against the, on behalf of the estate of the decedent or the injured party, if they're alive.
Yeah. To finish up these thoughts here, in that same article from the Oklahoman, according to the FBI, 2 of those orphan girls eventually were evicted, their vehicle repossessed, and they had to go to a church for help.
Because they had no money.
Exactly. All while Merritt was still alive.
Nice.
He was just sitting there in the hospital, and these 2 poor orphan girls are having to go to the church and beg for money and food. And that same special prosecutor, McLaughlin, said that, quote, he was addicted to litigation. He was willing to do anything he could to keep himself and his law firm in the game. That's the reason why he did it in the end, is he needed that drive, that adrenaline, that feel of power that the court gave him.
Well, I think this sounds like a man who was not a really good lawyer. But
he seemed to be quite
mechanically
good.
A good lawyer.
Yeah.
He did not have the scruples of a lawyer, as a lawyer should.
What's the word? Reputation.
He had a good reputation. He was a good mechanical litigator, but he was a terrible businessman. Yes. And so he compromised his morals to preserve his reputation, because probably crashing out in bankruptcy is pretty embarrassing.
Probably,
and we should really do an episode or 2 on law firm fundamentals, so that that would be very fun
to inform the background of all of this.
To inform the background of probably what was going on.
A colleague of Merritt's named R. Theodore Stricker, which I love, wrote that, quote, Mr. Merritt expressed to me that he had great remorse over his conduct and that he had become intoxicated with the power he had attained.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. He was, and this was after he got caught and charged, right?
Yes.
Oh, he's very sorry, sir.
Oh,
Please,
I'm so sorry.
don't send me to jail. And then he dies.
And then he dies.
And then he fucking dies. Yeah, good.
And that's it. That's the story, real life story of John Milton Merritt. What do you think, John?
Rest in piss, John. God. What a bitch.
Never come back.
I hate that guy. Yeah, may he never rise again. God damn. Orphan the stealing maniac. Okay.
Just crazy.
I mean, the fear of desperation will make people do truly crazy stuff.
That's for sure.
This is a great example of that. I'm not proud that these examples exist, but I'm glad we've at least told people so we can learn a little bit more.
Yes. Hey everybody, this is Gossip Without Prejudice. If you would please give us a comment or rate or share or like or send this to your friends, we would love to hear your thoughts on the show. You can go and visit us at gossipwithoutprejudice.com. Thank you so much for listening. See you soon. Bye.
Lindsey, but do you know who has not been convicted of federal charges of...
Is it me?
Yes, it's you. That's correct. I don't know where
I've never been convicted of anything.
I don't know where I was going with that joke, but it is what I'm trying to say is it is time for LTBE. Lindsey takes the bar exam, where we have Lindsey take the bar exam despite having no legal background. Mm-hmm. Lindsey, are you ready for this week's question?
I'm so ready. Okay. I'm going to nail it, folks.
So this week's question: a 50-year-old nurse who had been fired from his job at a hospital told his attorney, "I was fired because of my age, and I want to sue the hospital." Based on this information, the attorney filed an age discrimination complaint against the hospital in federal court. As it turned out, the hospital had hired a 52-year-old man as the nurse's replacement, a fact that rendered an age discrimination claim unavailable. The hospital responded to the complaint by filing a motion for sanctions against the nurse's attorney. Is the court likely to grant the hospital's motion?
Interesting. Well, just off the bat, I'm going to say, yes, the court would file this sanction against the attorney because it's pretty damn obvious that there's no case here. But the complaint was filed anyways, so... yes, please read
the replacement was 2 years older than the gentleman to begin with.
Very much worth noting.
Also, shout out to the MBE writers for having both nurses be male.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we like that.
Hell yeah. We love
Switching
that shit.
It up.
King behavior. All right. Answers are
yes.
A, no, because sanctions are not proper against the attorney of a represented party. B, no, because the hospital failed to give the attorney the chances to withdraw the complaint in advance of filing the motion with the court. C, yes, because the nurse's attorney failed to conduct a reasonable pre-filing inquiry. D, yes, because the nurse's complaint contained legal contentions that were not warranted by existing law based on the facts in this case.
Okay. I have my thoughts, but I'm going to change my answer.
Okay.
I'm thinking that it's B. The court has to give the attorney a chance to remove that claim before the hospital can really do anything about it. That's my guess.
Tell me more about your reasoning.
Okay. So...
I'm not letting you wriggle out of this one. You can give me don't cut this out.
So the attorney filed the claim that they're making a complaint against the hospital for this. The hospital says, no, that's not valid. The question is whether my question is whether the attorney gets a chance to remove that from court, or if that's just not a picture of how this works and the hospital can just do what they want. But I think that the court would allow the attorney to withdraw that before putting any consequences on the attorney. Because maybe they didn't know that the hospital had hired a 52-year-old person after them. Maybe they had to get that information through the complaint. So that's my final answer. I'm locking it in as B.
Locking in B?
Is that sufficient?
That is absolutely sufficient,
okay,
and that is absolutely correct.
Yay, I did it!
For the second week in a row, B is absolutely correct. No, because the hospital failed to give the attorney the chance to withdraw the complaint in advance of filing the motion with the court. So fundamentally, it is very much possible to find sanctions against opposing counsel. Here in Washington, it's called CR11. The state courts tend to mimic the general layout of the federal courts, so I think it might also be similar to CR11 and federal rules of procedure. I'd have to double check, but here in Washington, it's CR11. In all jurisdictions, it is really hard to get sanctions against opposing counsel.
Interesting.
It's an adversarial system. The courts know that. If it were easy to get sanctions just for doing stuff you don't like, everyone would have sanctions entered against them.
Free for all.
As a practical matter. Yes. And in general, it's hard. One of the reasons it's hard is because you both have to be dumb enough to say untrue shit, and then you have to be dumb enough to stand by them once warned.
Okay, so if the attorney had said, well, whatever, we're going to leave the claim anyways, that's when the hospital could have...
That's when he would be cooked.
I see.
But that sort of response, that like contention that like, hey, we hired a 50-year-old man to replace, that's the sort of thing you'd put in a response, right? Because an attorney has, it's usually a reasonable inquiry standard where it's like, you can believe your client, but you have to make a reasonable inquiry into the facts of the case before making contentions in open court. As an officer of the court, you owe candor to the tribunal. What reasonable inquiry means depends on the circumstances. We don't have much information here.
Nice and vague.
But in general, believing your client, as long as you have substantial reason to do so, is perfectly permissible.
A valid court case.
Yeah. They may not have known he hired the replacement. And so that's why a warning is usually a critical component of sanctions, because it's like, hey,
you
redact this. Yeah, exactly.
You got it wrong.
Actually, Hemet Law, years ago, I think like 12 years ago now, we had an opposing counsel. It was a child support case, and the opposing counsel filed doctored medical documents.
Oh.
Medical documents, the opposing party claimed she was pregnant. She had been not just told she was infertile, but diagnosed as infertile by like 4 or 5 different doctors, like by numerous medical professionals.
Oh, man.
And she had a delusion that she was pregnant anyways.
Oh, yikes.
And
poor lady.
She told her new attorney this, and the attorney took it hook, line, and sinker, and even brought her into the office and took like pregnancy like photos with presumably a fake belly, and like submitted medical reports that were clearly altered, that just made no inquiry into the facts of the case. And we warned and wrote her numerous times that like, hey, this is not right. Drop this now. You do not have a case. There is no child. Not only is the child not born, but there is no child. And then she stood by it, all of it, and we filed for CR11 sanctions, and we didn't get them.
Really?
Yes. So in this case, one of the standard, the court's analysis, she's still practicing actually and hates our guts.
Whoa.
She's in family law. The court's analysis was basically you are responsible for this falsehood. You are responsible for this falsehood. It was your responsibility to catch. You have told untrue things to the court, but we are letting you, attorney, off the hook because we genuinely believe you were dumb enough to be fooled.
Wow.
So yeah, that was the court said it much nicer than that. But
that's
that was
a surprise.
Yeah, so it was a bad look for her either way, because like the court, she tried to argue she wasn't responsible for these false claims, and the court was like, "No, you're responsible."
Yes, you submitted them.
but we're still letting you out of here because we believe you were dumb enough to not do it with malicious intent.
That's surprising.
Yes.
That is cringy as hell.
It is very tough to get CR11 sanctions, I think for good reason. I mean, we've been threatened with them a dozen times, and we're just like, okay, then file them, and then opposing counsel just goes away. It's why anytime you see Hemet Law threaten CR11 sanctions, it's extremely rare. B, it's because we mean business. Yeah, for sure. The good news is the court, in the case I referenced with our client, the court did order all of our attorney's fees back. But those sanctions and various other remedies were levied against the opposing party, not the attorney. Sanctions against the attorney is rare.
So the deluded woman was the one who had to pay all the fees and everything.
Yeah, our client, I think like...
Hopefully she had a good
job. $13,000 or $14,000 in attorney's fees. And that's the case we always look to when we are talking internally about CR11 sanctions. Is we're like, man, it's a high bar.
That one time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, fantastic. A second LTBE victory. Yay. You're on your way. You know, you had some troubles in the early season, but we're back on the late game. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Gossip Without Prejudice. We want to hear your crazy stories from the legal industry, so please, if you've got anything to submit, go to gossipwithoutprejudice.com. We're on all the socials. We'd love to hear from you. We watch our inbox. We would love to anonymize your stories and share them with our audience if you have any. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.